Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Today, inshallah, we're going to solve Cambridge exam October-November 2024, paper 23. Let's start it. Question 1. A sample of ethanol is left in an open beaker at room temperature. After 24 hours, no ethanol remains in the beaker. What has happened to ethanol? Ethanol is a liquid with a low boiling point, so it can easily evaporate at room temperature. Hence, here we have no ethanol remains in the beaker. That means all ethanol has been evaporated, and the answer is C. Question 2. A gas in a sealed container with a fixed volume, that means the pressure is constant. Which statement describes what happened to the molecules in the gas when the temperature increased? By increasing temperature, the kinetic energy of the particles will increase, so the particle will move faster. So, of course, statement 1 is wrong. It doesn't move slowly. They collide with the wall of the container more frequent as they are moving very fast. So, of course, the number of collisions or the frequency of collision will increase. Statement 2 is correct. They collide with less force. This is wrong because the temperature increases the energy of the particles. So, of course, they will collide with a greater force. They have a greater kinetic energy. This is right. Temperature increase kinetic energy. So, statement 2 and 4 are correct, and the answer is D. Question 3. What happened when sodium atoms combine with chlorine atom to form sodium chloride? Sodium chloride is ionic compound, so it is formed by the attraction forces between sodium ion and chloride ion. So what happened? That the sodium atom loses one electron to form sodium ion, and each chlorine atom gain one electron to form chloride ion. So the answer is here. Sodium atoms, each one lose one electron, and chlorine atom, each one gain one electron. Then we will have strong attraction forces between the positive sodium ion and the negative chloride ion. Here the answer is B. Question 4. The table shows some properties of four substances: melting point, electrical conductivity when it is solid, and electrical conductivity when it is molten. Which substances are ionic? Let's first revise the properties of the ionic compound. They have high melting and boiling point. They cannot conduct electricity when they are solid, but they can conduct electricity when it is molten. So here we have only one correct answer: high melting point, poor electrical conductivity when they are solid, but good electrical conductivity when they are molten. So only we have one ionic compound, which is 2. So the answer is D. Question 5. Which statement about methane is correct? Methane is a covalent compound where carbon and hydrogen join by a covalent bond. Carbon share one electron with each of the 4 hydrogen atoms to form 4 single covalent bonds. This is what happened in methane. So first one, hydrogen ion and negative carbon ion, this is wrong. It is not ionic compound. Methane electrons are shared between carbon atoms and hydrogen atoms. This is correct as we draw it here. Methane have high boiling point. This is wrong. Simple covalent molecule has low boiling point. Methane is a good conductor of electricity. Covalent compound cannot conduct electricity, so the answer is B. Question 6. A sample of iridium has a relative atomic mass of 192.29. The sample contains 2 isotopes only. The first one has a mass of 193, and the percentage of this isotope is 64.5%. What is the other isotope present in the sample? First, we will get the percentage of the second isotope. 100 minus 64.5, it will be 35.5%. Then we will write the formula. The mass of the first isotope multiplied by its percentage, 193 multiplied by 64.5. Then the mass of the second isotope, which is unknown, so I'll write it as X, multiplied by its percentage with 35.5, divide 100, give the relative atomic mass, which is already given, 192.29. So we can easily calculate the value of X, which is 191. So the answer is C. Question 7. Ammonium iron 3 citrate contain in its formula more than one ammonium ion. So we don't know how many ammonium ions present. but we know that each ammonium ion has a charge of +1. One iron ion, here it is iron 3, so it has a charge of +3, and two citrate ions, each one has a mass has a charge of -4. So the charge of the two citrate ion will be a total of -4 times 2, it will be -8. Hence we know that the total charge of the compound is 0 because the compound is neutral. So first, this is the charge of the two citrate ion, and this is the charge of iron. -8 plus 3, it will be -5. To make the total charge 0, we have to add 5 ammonium ions. Each one has a charge of +5. So +5 minus 5 will give me a total charge of 0. So we have 5 ammonium ions in the formula of ammonium iron citrate, and the answer will be B. Question 8. Silicon 4 oxide reacts with chlorine and carbon to form liquid silicon 4 chloride and carbon dioxide gas. In the reaction carried at room temperature and pressure, write the simple equation represent this reaction. Silicon 4 oxide is solid. Chlorine, of course, is a gas. Carbon is a solid. And here it is given that liquid silicon 4 chloride is a liquid and carbon dioxide is a gas. So the correct symbol for the equation will be silicon 4 oxide solid, chlorine is a gas, carbon solid, and silicon 4 chloride is a liquid, carbon dioxide is a gas. The answer is D. Question 9. The structure of ethene is shown. How many hydrogen atoms and how many carbon atoms in 1 mole of ethene? 1 mole of ethene contain Avogadro's constant molecules of ethene, and hence each molecule contains 2 carbon atoms. So to know the carbon atoms, we will multiply by 2. This will be 1.2 times 10 to the power of 24. This is the number of carbon atoms. And to know the number of hydrogen atoms, we will multiply the number of molecules by 4. This will be 2.4 times 10 to the power of 24. So the answer is A. Question 10. A known volume and concentration of aqueous sodium hydroxide is titrated against dilute hydrochloric acid. So we know the volume and the concentration of sodium hydroxide, and the volume of dilute hydrochloric acid used or needed from the purette that exactly neutralized sodium hydroxide is measured from the purette. So we also know the volume of HCl, and we want to know the concentration of HCl. So we will first get the number of moles of sodium hydroxide, and from the ratio we will get the number of moles of hydrochloric acid. Then we will divide the volume to get the concentration of hydrochloric acid. So first we will calculate the number of moles of sodium hydroxide. Statement 4 is number 1. Then we will calculate the amount of hydrochloric acid in moles from the ratio given in the equation. After that, we will calculate the concentration by dividing the number of moles by the volume to get the concentration. After that, we have to calculate the relative formula mass of hydrochloric acid. To convert from mole per decimeter cube into gram per decimeter cube, we have to multiply by the relative formula mass. So the final step will be calculate the concentration of hydrochloric acid in gram per decimeter cube. So the correct order here will be 4, 1, 5, 2, 3, and the answer is C. Question 11. 2 different substances are electrolyzed using inert electrode into separate experiments. Hydrogen is produced in both experiments. Of course, hydrogen is produced at the cathode. Which row identify the 2 substances that are electrolyzed and the electrode at which the hydrogen is produced? Hydrogen has a positive ion, and the positive ions attracted to the cathode. So of course we will search about the cathode, and then we will see the 2 electrolyte present in the first one. Molten sodium chloride, of course molten contain no hydrogen ion, it contain only sodium ion and chloride ion, so statement B is wrong. Here, dilute sulfuric acid, it has protons, so we will have hydrogen gas formed at the cathode. Also, hydrochloric acid, the proton attracted to the cathode to form hydrogen gas. So the correct statement here is D. Question 12. Aqueous copper 2 sulfate can be electrolyzed using either carbon electrode or copper electrode. Which statement describes what happened at the positive electrode? The positive electrode is the anode. In case of electrolysis using carbon electrode at the anode, we will have OH ions attracted to the anode to form oxygen gas. And in case of copper electrode at the anode ionizes to produce copper ions, so we will have copper ions produced from copper metal. This will be at the anode in case of copper electrodes. So copper deposit if the electrode is made from carbon. No, copper is deposit on the cathode, not on the anode. Copper deposit if the electrode is made for copper, the same, it will be at the cathode. Oxygen produced if the electrode is made from carbon. This is right, as we already write it here. Oxygen produced if the electrode is made from carbon. Oxygen is produced when the electrode is made from copper. This is wrong. When the electrode is made from copper, copper metal ionizes to give copper ions to the solution. So here the answer is C. Question 13. Which statement about hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell is not correct? In hydrogen-oxygen fuel cell, the reaction is exothermic. So statement C is not correct. So the answer is C. Chemical energy is converted to electrical energy. This is correct. Hydrogen fuel cell produces energy, and hydrogen is oxidized because hydrogen gas loses electrons to produce proton. So this is oxidation. This is correct. Water is only the chemical product formed, and this is also correct. So the only incorrect statement is C. Which reaction pathway diagram is correctly labeled? So let's check the four diagrams. The first one here, the reactant absorb activation energy, and the arrow is directed upward to break the bonds of the reactant, and the delta H with an arrow directed downward for the difference between the reactant and the product. So statement diagram A is correct. For diagram B, the delta H is incorrect. The delta H is supposed to be the difference between the reactant and the product, so this is incorrect. Here the activation energy has incorrect arrow, and here also the delta H and the activation energy is reversed, so the only correct diagram is A. Question 15. Which row describes a reaction where the overall energy change is exothermic? Exothermic means the delta H will be negative and the temperature of the surrounding will increase. So for the delta H to be negative, it is the energy absorbed to break the bond minus the energy released when new bonds are formed. To be in negative value, the energy released has to be greater than the energy absorbed. So here we have 1200 is greater than the energy absorbed, and the temperature of the surrounding increases, so the answer is D. Question 16. Which process involves physical change only? Heating calcium carbonate, this is a thermal decomposition chemical reaction, so it is not physical. Burning wood, burning is a chemical reaction also. And mixing an acid with a base is a neutralization reaction, so it is also a chemical reaction. Melting ice cube, melting is a physical process, so the answer is C. Question 17. In Haber process, an equilibrium is established. The forward reaction is exothermic. Which change to the reaction condition will move the position equilibrium to the left? That means to the backward side, to the reactant side. So let's check the four statements. Removing iron catalyst, this is wrong. Catalyst has no effect on the position of equilibrium. Adding more nitrogen gas to the mixture. If you add more nitrogen to increase the amount of the reactant, of course, the equilibrium will shift toward right or forward to increase the ammonia, so this will not shift to the equilibrium left. Decreasing the temperature by 100 degrees Celsius because it's exothermic reaction. So decreasing the temperature will shift the equilibrium forward because the forward is exothermic. So this is also wrong. Decreasing the pressure by checking the number of moles on each side. Here we have 4 moles and here we have 2 moles. So decreasing the pressure will shift the equilibrium to the side with higher number of moles, which is the left side. So this will shift the equilibrium left or backward. The answer is A. The flow chart shows the some properties of metal oxide. This metal oxide reacts with sodium hydroxide to give salt and water. That means it can neutralize sodium hydroxide, and it reacts with HCl also with acid to reduce salt and water. That means this metal oxide can neutralize acid and alkali. It is amphoteric oxide. By reduction, the metal oxide will give the metal, and this metal is a component of brass. Brass contain copper and zinc, and of course zinc will form the amphoteric metal oxide. So the metal oxide is zinc oxide, and the answer is D. 19. Which statement about reactant in a redox reaction is correct? To make it easier to discuss the 4th statement, I will write an example for a redox reaction. So here is the equation between zinc and copper sulfate to form zinc sulfate and copper ion. The zinc loses 2 electrons, so the oxidation number of zinc change from 0 to +2. It gets oxidized, so it is the reducing agent, and copper ions change from +2 to 0. That means it gain 2 electrons, it gets reduced, so it is the copper ions are the oxidizing agent. So statement 1, an oxidizing agent donate electrons. Oxidizing agent copper ions gain electrons, so statement 1 is wrong. When one element gains electron, the oxidation number of the different element increases. So one element gain electron, which is copper. The oxidation number of zinc change from 0 to 2. That means the oxidation number of zinc increase. So when copper ions gain electrons, the oxidation number of zinc increases. So statement 2 is correct. When an oxidation number of one element increases, so zinc, the oxidation number of zinc increases, a different element gain oxygen. This is wrong. When oxidation number of an element increases, can work for zinc also. The oxidation number increases from 0 to +2. A different element loses electron. This is incorrect. The different element gain electron. So the only correct statement is B. Question 20. Aluminium is extracted from aluminium oxide by electrolysis. The ionic half equation for the reaction at one electrode is shown. Aluminium gain 3 electrons to form aluminium metal. Which row describes the change in the oxidation number of aluminium and the type of reaction at the electrode? Here the charge of the aluminium ions +3. It gains 3 electrons to form aluminium metal, which is neutral, so the charge is 0. Here we have decrease in the oxidation number from +3 to 0, decrease in the oxidation number, and gaining electron is reduction, so the answer is A. Which statement about dilute hydrochloric acid is correct? Of course, hydrochloric acid is a strong acid which is fully dissociated, so the answer is A. 22. Which row describes and gives the formula of hydrated copper sulfate? The formula of hydrated copper sulfate is copper sulfate and 5 molecules of water, and these water molecules are chemically combined to the structure of the hydrated crystal. So this is the correct formula, and here is the correct description that the water is chemically combined to the water molecule chemically combined to the structure of the crystal. They are not aqueous solutions, so statement 1 is incorrect, and the answer is D. Question 23. The equation for 3 reactions are shown. Here we have lead nitrate with potassium iodide to form the insoluble solid lead iodide, and the second one, silver nitrate with copper iodide to form the insoluble solid silver iodide. So here we have a precipitate of lead iodide, and in the second one we have a precipitate of silver iodide. In the third one, there is a neutralization reaction to form the soluble salt copper sulfate. It's aqueous, so there is no precipitate. Which reactions are suitable for making salt pie by precipitation? We have reaction 1 and reaction 2. Both form insoluble solid, which is a precipitate. So 1 and 2 can be used for a precipitation reaction, and the answer is A. 24. Acidified potassium dichromate is used to oxidize ethanol. The ionic equation for the reaction is shown. Ethanol, and here is the negative ion of the dichromate ion, plus 16 protons, and the ethanol changed to be ethanoic acid. Here is the chromium ion, plus 3, and water molecule. Which properties of transition element are shown in this reaction? So let's first calculate the charge of chromium ion in the chromate ion. Here the total charge is -2. We have 7 oxygen, each one for -2, so the total charge of oxygen is -14. And we have 2 chromium, so 2 multiplied by the charge of chromium, -14 equal to -2. That means the 2 chromium charges equal to +12 and each chromium ion has a charge of +6. So the charge of chromium ion here is +6 and change it to +3. So this is a property of transition method that they have variable oxidation number. This is of course shown by the reaction because we have a decrease in the oxidation number of chromium from +6 to +3. But in this reaction doesn't show that chromium ions or the dichromate ion act as a catalyst. So this property is wrong. The reaction doesn't show that chromate ion has any catalytic property, but it shows the change in the oxidation number. So the answer is C. Which statement describes the periodic table? 1. The elements are arranged in order of their nucleon number. This is of course incorrect. They are arranged according to their proton number. The element arranged in their proton number, correct? In the periodic table, it is used to predict the properties of elements. This is of course correct because elements in the same group have the same chemical properties. So we can predict the properties of the element. Metals are on the left, non-metals are on the right. The reactivity increase or decrease, we can predict the chemical properties of the element from the periodic table. So we have 2 and 3 are correct statement, and the answer is C. Which row shows the correct order of reactivity of 4 named metals? Magnesium, zinc, copper, and silver. Of course, magnesium is more reactive than zinc, then copper, then silver. From the more reactive, magnesium comes first, then zinc, copper, and silver. So the answer is B. Question 27. 4 iron nails are added to 4 different metal sulfate solution. In which solution does a displacement reaction occur? For the iron to displace metal M from its sulfate, iron has to be more reactive than metal M. So the only metal here in the 4 options that less reactive than iron is copper. So iron can displace copper from copper sulfate, and the answer is A. Question 28. A fertilizer contains ammonium nitrate and potassium phosphate. Why is this fertilizer described as NPK fertilizer? This fertilizer supplies nitrogen from the ammonium nitrate, potassium from the potassium phosphate, and also phosphorus from the potassium phosphate. So it can supply the 3 essential elements needed for the plant: nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. So it provides the 3 main elements needed for improvement of the plant growth, and the answer is D. 29. What are the approximate percentage of oxygen and nitrogen in the clean dry air? The percentage of oxygen is 21, and for nitrogen it's 78, so the answer is B. Question 30. Which compound have similar chemical properties? The first one, butanol and butanoic acid. There are 2 different homologous series, so of course they don't have similar chemical properties. Ethane and ethene ethane is alkane and ethene alkene, so they have different chemical properties. Here we have methane and butane, both are from the same homologous series, both are alkanes, so of course they have similar chemical properties. Propene and propanol, this one, propene is alkene and propanol is alcohol, so they don't have similar chemical properties. The correct answer here is C. Question 31. For statement about organic compound P, Q, R, and S are listed. P is saturated hydrocarbon, so it is alkane because saturated hydrocarbon are alkane. The formula of Q, CH3, that means C2H6. This is ethane, so Q is also alkane. A molecule of R contains only one oxygen atom, and compound S is carboxylic acid. So we don't know what is molecule R, but we know that S is carboxylic acid. So first, B and Q are members of different homologous series. This is incorrect. B and Q are of the same series, which is alkane. B and S are members of the same series. No, S is carboxylic acid and P is alkane, so this is wrong. Q and S are members of the same series. Q and S, again, they are different homologous series. Q, R, and S are all members of different homologous series. Yes, R and S are different, and also B is different. So we have 3 different homologous series, and the answer is D. Question 32. The structure of organic compound is shown. What is the name of the compound? Here we have ethane, where one of the hydrogen atoms substituted with chlorine, so it is chloroethane. The answer is A. Question 33. Which statement about the manufacture of ethene from larger alkane molecule is correct? The long chain of alkane can be broken down into shorter alkene molecule like ethene by cracking, so the answer is B. Which processes are used to make ethanoic acid? Heating ethanol with acidified aqueous potassium manganate. Potassium manganate is oxidizing agent which can oxidize ethanol to ethanoic acid, so this method can be used to make ethanoic acid. Bacterial oxidation of ethanol also produce ethanoic acid, so 1 and 2 are correct. Distilling ethanol using fractionating column, this is of course will not produce ethanoic acid because there is no oxidation. Statement 1 or 2 are correct, and the answer is A. Question 35. Which statement about propene is correct? Propene is alkene, so it reacts with bromine in the dark in substitution reactions. This is wrong because propene react with bromine in addition reaction. Propene react with steam in the presence of alkaline catalyst forming alcohol. Bromine react with steam in the presence of phosphoric acid, so it is not alkaline, it's acidic catalyst. Propene undergoes addition polymerization to form polyethene. Of course, this is wrong, it will form polypropene. Propene undergoes addition reaction to form alkane. This is addition of hydrogen in the presence of a nickel catalyst where alkene changed to alkane, so the answer is D. Question 36. How many of each type of bond are present in ethanoic acid? So here we want to count the carbon-hydrogen bond, carbon-carbon, and the carbon double bond oxygen. We have only one carbon double bond oxygen, and we have also one carbon-carbon bond and 3 carbon-hydrogen bonds. So 3, 1, 1. The answer is A. Which diagram represents the structure of protein? In protein, the monomer is amino acid. That means it has carboxylic group from the first side and amino group from the second side. So this is the monomer that represent amino acid, and the protein can be represented by structure D. Question 38. The chromatogram of substance S is shown. some distances W, X, Y, and Z are labeled on the diagram as shown here. How is the RF value of substance S is calculated? We will measure the distance from the baseline to the spot of substance X, and this is Y, and is divided by the distance moved by the solvent, which is from the baseline to the solvent front, which is X. So we can measure the RF value of substance S by dividing Y divide X, and the answer is C. Some information about solid silver chloride and solid sodium chloride is shown. Silver chloride and sodium chloride don't dissolve in creosote. Silver chloride is insoluble in water, but sodium chloride is soluble in water. The boiling point of silver chloride is 1547 degrees Celsius, and the boiling point of sodium chloride is 1413 degrees Celsius. Which processes are used to separate mixture of solid silver chloride and solid sodium chloride? Of course, we have here that silver chloride is insoluble in water, but sodium chloride is soluble. So we can add water and mix or stir. So sodium chloride will dissolve and silver chloride will remain as a precipitate. Then we will filter to separate the solid silver chloride. So the answer is B. Question 40. Which statement describes how a flame test is done? To make the flame test, the tip of a clean wire is dipped into the substance and the wire is placed in a blue Bunsen burner flame. So the answer is A. The second one, B, is wrong because it uses a blue flame. It uses a yellow flame. The flame has to be a blue flame because it is the hot flame. So we have to make the flame test in a blue Bunsen burner, not a yellow one. And C and D are wrong because using wooden splint. Now we've come to the end of our exam. Comment down below if you have any questions. Thank you for watching. Wish you all best of luck.